Donald Trump's performance at Davos has raised some serious questions about what we accept from our leaders. But before we discuss what happened, I want to ask you something important. When did we start accepting confusion at this level? When did it become normal for the President of the United States to mix up entire countries? Because here's what actually occurred. Trump came to Davos discussing acquiring Greenland, but then repeatedly mentioned Iceland instead, a completely different nation. The statements kept coming, one after another. Then he announced some kind of agreement, though the specific terms remained unclear to observers. Some analysts were comparing it to previous situations where existing arrangements get repackaged as new victories. What kind of diplomatic framework is that really? What does this tell us about where we are right now? But there's something else that happened in Davos that deserves our attention, something that should concern all of us, regardless of political affiliation. Trump's administration prevented California Governor Gavin Newsom from speaking at an official event. Think about that carefully. The State Department, representing all Americans, used its authority to restrict a political figure from addressing an international audience. The USA House is America's official pavilion at Davos. It's where American leaders speak on the world stage. Newsom had been invited to discuss his observations about Trump's speech and its implications for America's global standing. Yet the administration moved to prevent this speech from happening. This raises important questions about when it's appropriate for government power to limit political speech, especially at international forums meant for open dialogue. Newsom responded by posting on social media a photo of Trump appearing to sleep while world leaders like Carney, Macron, and von der Leyen stood nearby. The post suggested that American leadership is not being taken seriously by our allies. Is that an accurate reflection, or is there more to the story? These are the kinds of observations we should sit with. Now let's examine this agreement Trump announced. When a CNBC host asked for specific details about the Greenland deal, Trump responded, "I got concepts of a deal. They're great concepts that I got." Consider what was actually said there. Not a completed agreement, not finalized terms, concepts, ideas about what might become an agreement eventually. Here's his fuller statement. "We have a concept of a deal. I think it's going to be a very good deal for the United States and also for them. We're going to work together on something having to do with the Arctic as a whole, but also Greenland. It has to do with security, great security, strong security, and other things." Do you notice something? There are no specific commitments mentioned, no concrete terms, just general references to great security and other things. This raises a genuine question. What exactly was agreed to? And here's where it gets interesting. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte appeared on Fox News afterward and said something striking. He indicated that Greenland's status never came up in their conversations. The very issue Trump spent weeks focused on, the reason for threatening tariffs and military considerations, apparently wasn't discussed in the actual meetings. How do we understand that discrepancy?
During his Davos speech, Trump said something that warrants serious examination. He stated, quote, "Sometimes you need a dictator," end quote. Let that settle for a moment. The American president, speaking internationally, suggested that dictatorial governance has merit. He continued by discussing how authoritarian approaches might be based on common sense. On the same day, Vladimir Putin agreed to participate in Trump's proposed Board of Peace, along with Lukashenko, Netanyahu, and other leaders. This combination of statements and alignments is worth considering carefully. Throughout American history, defending democratic governance has been considered fundamental to presidential leadership. When a sitting president expresses openness to authoritarian models, it represents a significant departure from that tradition. There's a pattern worth examining in how Trump approaches different leaders around the world. He has maintained support for certain authoritarian figures while maintaining distance from democratic allies. He supported leaders in Venezuela while being critical of European allies. He's maintained friendly relations with leaders who consolidate power through non-democratic means. Meanwhile, he has expressed frustration with Mark Carney, Emmanuel Macron, and European Union leadership. He attempted to prevent Gavin Newsom from speaking. He's been critical of Democratic allies who maintain their own foreign policy positions. So here's a question worth sitting with. What's the pattern? Who does he gravitate toward? Who seems to receive his criticism? The answer might tell us something about his approach to power and governance, whether he values democratic accountability or prefers leaders with concentrated authority. Recent polling shows Trump's approval ratings have declined significantly. In Georgia, 18.6%. In Texas, negative 17.2%. In Michigan, 15.8%. In Ohio, 9.2%. In North Carolina, 13.6%. In Florida, negative 7.5%. These numbers indicate that Americans across different regions are expressing significant disapproval. When leaders see their support declining, they often respond in predictable ways, sometimes by doubling down on confrontation, sometimes by seeking validation from fewer critics. The move to prevent Gavin Newsom from speaking could be understood in this context. When popularity is declining, there's often less tolerance for criticism. When approval slips, control becomes more appealing.
So here's what I want to ask you. Have we accepted lower standards than we should? Have we become comfortable with things that would previously have been considered disqualifying for national leadership? Consider the pattern. A president who confuses major nations, who announces agreements with undefined terms, who prevents political opponents from speaking, who expresses comfort with authoritarian governance. Governor Newsom raised an important point. He suggested we should stop grading on a curve, that we should expect consistent standards regardless of the person in office. And that's worth considering. Across political divides, Americans generally want leaders who demonstrate clarity, who respect constitutional protections for speech, who support democratic allies, and who maintain clear diplomatic positions. When we accept lower standards from one leader than we would from another, what does that say about our commitment to these values? A president who mixes up countries, a president who restricts political speech, a president who expresses openness to authoritarianism, a president who announces vague agreements and calls them victories. These are legitimate concerns, regardless of partisan perspective, and our allies are watching how we respond. They're observing whether America still stands for the values it historically has championed. So that's what happened in Davos, viewed through a different lens. If you're interested in examining what leadership looks like, in understanding the patterns and asking hard questions about standards and values, then you've got to like and follow for more. This channel breaks down major events without hype, examines the patterns worth understanding, and asks the questions that matter for our future. Hit subscribe, share this with people who want to think deeply about these issues, and let me know in the comments, what standards do you think we should maintain for our leaders? Thanks for watching.